kick-ass switch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you are watching a video about the Major Arcana from the tarot system that so many of us know and love. And I am going to be speaking about the Major Arcana as this guy, the Fool, as the Fool's journey. I also like to think of it as the journey of your soul's journey. Joseph Campbell called this journey, or a lot of us who read tarot, we borrowed his terminology of the hero's journey. We often call it the hero's journey. You could call it the mythic journey. But thinking of it as the Fool's journey is a very helpful learning device because the 22 cards of the Major Arcana, the Fool is actually the first card, but he is numbered 0. 0 for infinity. And the circle of life just keeps on going round and round and round. So only 21 of the Major Arcana cards are numbered. So don't let that confuse you. But it's appropriate to call it the Fool's journey because the Major Arcana is really about this guy's journey through all 21 of the other Major Arcana cards. This deck is actually the Happy Tarot. I recently got this. I work with the Rider-Waite-Smith system, and so I like to collect decks that are in alignment with that system because I feel like it just takes my knowledge of it that much deeper. So I'm still working with the same system, but each deck has a little bit of a different take on it. And what I love about the Happy Tarot is it looks adorable. It's very Sanrio-like. It looks like the Hello Kitty and all of her other little fellow characters that so many of us grew up on. But like I said, it follows the Rider-Waite-Smith system, and it has all of the symbolism that is so important to reading tarot intact. And I love that what it does for me is it reminds me not to take myself so seriously, because while the dramas and traumas that are happening here in our own lives seem so real and heavy to us at the time from a higher perspective, perhaps the perspective of God or Goddess or your higher self, however you want to look at it, I feel like maybe sometimes the great they up there are laughing at us. And that's what's so great about comedy, because so many talented comedians, they come from tragic backgrounds and they learn to turn their tragedy into humor. And a lot of people say that all comedy comes from tragedy, light tragedy to even dark tragedy, like when you get to dark humor. And I think that that's what this deck does. It follows the system in a serious way, but it's a constant reminder because of those cute, chubby characters not to take yourself too seriously. And I'll just show you what I mean. Here's the Tower card, which a lot of people fear, myself included. I don't like to pull the Tower card. These are all cards from the Major Arcana, which I'm going to be talking about here in a moment. I just wanted to have a Happy Tarot moment with you first. Here is the Devil, doing his devilish thing, but looking very chubby and cute and adorable while he's doing it. The High Priestess, she's got all the great symbolism is there. Even the pomegranates, I think that's so cool. And then I just happen to personally love the Hermit. That's a card that I connect with in general, and I think this one is so well done. A lot of people believe that the Major Arcana was the first tarot. In a typical classic deck of tarot cards, you have 78 cards. 22 of them are separated out as the Major Arcana. The other 56 cards are called the Minor Arcana, and they actually align with your standard deck of playing cards. And so some people think that perhaps the Major Arcana, it might have been a learning tool, for teaching children with pictures about the big moments that happen in life, or it could have been used for divination. But a lot of people think that Tarot started with the Major Arcana. Major Arcana actually translates into big secret, which I love because I live for the mystery. And that maybe perhaps later, just to make it more interesting, the standard deck of playing cards was tacked onto that. Because back in the day, before there were movies and TV and the internet, and even before books were readily available for everyone, people sat around entertaining themselves with card games. So playing cards were very popular. And you might know that playing cards are broken up into 4 suits. So is the Minor Arcana, those other 56 cards that I'm not going to be talking about today. And that is because I am doing a Tarot 101 series on Hippie Witch, Magic for a New Age, the podcast that I do live every Tuesday at noon. You can listen to the replay of any of those shows on iTunes anytime you want, or Blog Talk Radio if you prefer. And so each Tuesday in October, I am doing a different suit. So we've already done swords and cups. Next we'll be doing wands, and then we'll be doing the pentacles. So I'm not going to get into all of that here. Today we're just talking about the Major Arcana. And I believe that the Major Arcana, each of those 21 cards, in addition to the Fool card, represent the major sweeping movements of our lives, the big events of our lives. That's why they're major, the Major Arcana. And they are archetypal to us all, meaning they belong to us all. And most of us, if we live to a semi-ripe age, will experience all of these cards, so to speak. And you might want to think of it kind of as, first of all, let me just say that Tarot is not a linear system. It doesn't go from point A to point Z. It's not like that, but that is an amazing way to learn the Tarot. The Major Arcana in particular, which I recommend removing from your tarot deck if you're a beginner or if you're in the middle of a long-held love affair with tarot and you've never done this, removing the Major Arcana from the deck and spending a long period of time just working with those cards and studying those cards can teach you so much about life. But going back to what I was saying, to learn it at a deep level, to really understand the archetypes, the mythology, and the symbolism involved in each card, it's very helpful to learn it in a linear way. And you can kind of think of it as the Fool is journeying through these like 21 rooms of life, or 21 movie sets, or 21 different lands. He's meeting 21 different characters that are going to change him forever. He's going to have 21 different major experiences that are going to mature him. It's a maturation process and an individuation process that hopefully, maybe it starts out the Fool's journey and maybe ends as the soul's journey, because I believe that each of our souls have a journey and that it takes time to align our ego with our soul's mission here on earth. Some of us, it takes longer than others, but the tarot can help you do that because it's pictorial. It works at a deep subconscious level that your conscious mind can't touch. So if you can get into a meditative state and allow the symbolism to speak to you, you can bypass the conscious mind and get down into your subconscious mind that does not speak in words. It speaks in pictures. It speaks in archetypes. It speaks in symbols. And that is why the Tarot is so universally powerful for an atheist to someone who believes in every god and goddess and that there's magic in the cards. You don't have to believe that there's magic in the cards. I personally believe that the magic is in you and that the cards are speaking to you. If you've been following me for a long time, you may know that my first channel here on YouTube was called Major Arcana TV. And that is not because I wanted to have a YouTube channel just talking about the Major Arcana. It's actually because, well, for one, I have a huge affinity as a writer with the Major Arcana. And for two, I just really love the idea of big mystery. I started my channel because I wanted to talk about a novel that I was writing, and I've actually circled back to getting that novel together. It's the first novel in a 5-book series, so it's been a huge undertaking. And it's funny to think back to those early YouTube days when that was my intention. I wanted to talk about the subject matter of that novel, which is witchcraft and tarot largely. There's themes of codependence, and it's got a very psycho-spiritual nature to it. Tons of symbolism, tons of metaphor, and so I just wanted to talk about all of that stuff. And so that's why I named my channel Major Arcana. The reason that it connects for me as a writer is because of the hero's journey, which is something that Joseph Campbell, who so many of you I know are fans of, he kind of coined this term. Joseph Campbell was an expert in mythology. If you have not ever read The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell or seen the original interview, The Power of Myth, that he did with Bill Moyers, I highly recommend going out of your way to check that out. I don't know if it's still available, but I actually have the audio of that. I downloaded it through iTunes. You can purchase it, I think, still, if it's still there, through iTunes. And if you're a writer, if you're a tarot reader, if you're just a lover of all things psycho-spiritual, that is an awesome thing to check out. And the hero's journey is really the journey of your life, but it's the journey that is presented in every kind of big, sweeping, epic blockbuster movie or book. And even going further back to that, the ancient myths that we are still telling to this day because they are archetypal, because they apply to us all, because they are timeless. It's a timeless journey that we humans go on. And The Wizard of Oz is a great example of the hero's journey. Star Wars, a really interesting little tidbit is that Joseph Campbell was a mentor to George Lucas. And Joseph Campbell actually talked about how Star Wars is the perfect example of a hero's journey. And something that I often mention, I've mentioned it a few times on my radio show, just in passing, is that there's actually a religion created around Star Wars. It is called Jediism, and it's about living the life of a Jedi, you know, working with the Force. And I forget how many principles are, but there are so many like principles to being a Jedi. And it's no joke. This is a real religion, and I don't see why not. I mean, I don't have a religion, but if you're gonna have a religion, like, why the hell not Jediism? Especially when you start realizing, if you start connecting it to the hero's journey, or even go so far as connect it to what I'm talking about here with the Major Arcana, and see that you can hit on the big, major, sweeping things of your life in a way that enhances your journey, that makes your journey easier. And what I love about working with tarot cards is that what I was saying about how symbolism allows you to bypass the conscious mind, it's a system that you can learn. So like I'm saying, it's easy to learn in a linear way. Once you learn it consciously, you've memorized it, you have an understanding of the system, it's a bridge between your psyche, between your soul, between your subconscious and your conscious mind. And that's when real understanding starts to happen. You start to understand your shadows. You start to understand what makes you tick. And then beyond that, you start to understand other people's shadows and what makes them tick. So that is just so profound to me. And I will never get bored talking about the tarot and the Major Arcana in particular. Also, I could talk about this 24/7 for the rest of my life and never say all there is to say about it. This is just my personal take on the Major Arcana, and that again is why tarot is so interesting, because everyone has their own unique take on it. So I'm going to share a few books that have been helpful for me on my journey, and starting with Rachel Pollack's Tarot Wisdom, because there's a section in this book. This is what I think makes this book really powerful. Right here. Check that out. You can see the Fool up at the top, and then 3 layers of the Major Arcana. I, as a writer, work with a 3-act structure. So remember I was saying I love the Major Arcana because it speaks to me as a writer. This is why. I work with a 3-act structure. Sometimes, if I'm working on a long project, I work with a 5-act structure. Because if you read a lot of books or you watch a lot of movies, you probably know that a lot of them end with a bang and start with a bang, but in the middle they kind of like sag, like writers kind of lose their way, or it's like a boring long slog before it starts picking up again. So inserting a 3-act structure in the middle there and actually making it a 5-act structure, I have found to be very helpful. This is not a writing video. Next month's theme is going to be storytelling and fiction, and it's not about writing. I will be talking about some of my favorite books and writing techniques, but it's really about the fictions of your life and telling the stories of your life, telling new, more empowering stories, stuff like that. But it will tie in very nicely with this month's theme of tarot. So the 3 levels that the Fool journeys through, according to Rachel Pollack, is, and maybe other people, but I learned it from Rachel Pollack, is the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious. So as if he were traveling in a linear fashion, he has first a journey of the conscious mind. And that's more of like an outward, the world all around him, his ego's wants and needs, what he's out to like prove and make of himself. The second layer of his journey is more of a psychic initiation process. It's about the unconscious. And it takes his learning about what life is all about to a whole other level and initiates him into this deeper level of understanding. And then the third tier is about the superconscious, where it's not all about him anymore. It's about the bigger picture and the great all, and how maybe if it is about him, about his little cog in that great big wheel, how what he does affects the greater good, and getting an understanding of the universe. It's more universal, cosmic ideas and lessons. So let's break that down so I can, that's like the one thing I would love for you to take away from this video, because it'll really help you understand the Major Arcana. So tier 1, each tier is broken down into 7 cards. So tier 1 would take you through cards 1 through 7. So that would be the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, and the Chariot. And that is the journey that is conscious. That is him going out consciously to individuate himself from his family, from his tribe, to find himself, to go on a mission. Maybe he's being removed against his will, and he has to learn to like find his way after being removed. A lot of times the fool's journey is initiated from within, just an unrest and a need to go out and find yourself. So a lot of that on a conscious level happens in this first tier. The next level of his journey represents the subconscious. So that would take you through cards 8 through 14. And that's when he moves from strength to the Hermit to the Fortune, the Wheel of Fortune. Sometimes it's called the Wheel, sometimes it's called Fortune, to Justice, to the Hanged Man, Death, and then Temperance. So once he has integrated all of those lessons, he has been initiated into the path of the subconscious mind, and he's got a handle on that. He moves to tier 3, where it becomes about the superconscious. It's not all about him anymore, and he moves from cards 15 to 21. Where it starts all over again, because the journey is just one big circle. I like to think of it as a spiral, because we go on this journey many, many times, and we pass back around the same experience and experiences and cards many times. But every time you pass back through an experience, it goes deeper. You experience it in a different way than you did before, and the lesson drives in deeper, and it changes you on a whole other level. So the superconscious layer, it takes him from the devil to the Tower, to the Star, the Moon, the Sun, Judgment, and finally the World card. Now the way this ties in with a writing 3-act structure is you have, in a classic 3-act structure, Act 1 is the setup, so that would be the conscious for our Fool. Act 2 is the conflict, that would be the unconscious. And Act 3 is the resolution, that would be the superconscious. So that's when you are super understanding. You've been all the way through the Major Arcana and you are a badass now. And now you get to begin again and learn all over again. And please keep in mind, like I said, this is not a linear system. It's very interesting to study it that way, and I have gotten so much out of it. I've learned so much from that. But again, it's not linear. That's just a handy learning tool and an interesting way of looking at the Fool's journey. But you can start here or there or bing bong all around the entire deck. I'm just talking about the Major Arcana today. And I'm not going to go through each card step by step by step and explain what they mean, because this would be like a 10-hour video if I did. But if you're interested in that, you have to pick up a copy, even though it is $35 and people like to balk at the price. It is worth every single penny to pick up a copy of the complete guide to the Tarot Illuminati by Kim Huggens. The Tarot Illuminati happens to be my go-to everyday deck because in addition to being a tarot lover and a book nerd, I am also a crazy, enthusiastic movie fan. And what I love about the Tarot Illuminati, which was designed by Eric C. Dune, he's the one who created the artwork, is that it's very cinematic. It looks a lot like Game of Thrones to me, to the point where when I'm watching Game of Thrones, I will see certain scenes and be like, oh my gosh, that looks just like the Five of Swords. So it's very cinematic. It's obviously not for everyone because every deck is like that. Certain people resonate with it, certain people don't. You might think it's too dark or too cheesy, I don't know, but I love it because to me it looks like at any point the character featured in the card is like one breath away from like movement, and I can picture them like it's like a 3D card almost. I can picture them getting up and moving around and interacting with the scenery, and in that way the story starts to unfold in my mind even further than what is represented on the card. So that's why I personally love it. If you follow the Rider-Waite-Smith system, this book will totally speak to you. You do not have to be a fan of the Tarot Illuminati deck. You don't have to own that deck. If you work with Rider-Waite-Smith, anything, this book is going to be awesome because Kim Huggens has the most dazzling brain. She is a tarot genius. She has a comprehensive understanding of mythology, alchemy, astrology, in addition to tarot. And so she spends a long time in this book breaking down each and every card. She gives her full attention to each and every card. She does not get lazy on one page of this book. It is so, I can't say enough about it. Kim Huggens, if you would like me to be your official ambassador, I will be, because I mention it every breath that I can. That will take your understanding of each card to a whole other level. Can't recommend it enough. Another book that I really like that talks about the psychological dynamics of each card is Tarot as a Way of Life, a Jungian approach to the tarot. I actually did a book nerd post on this. You can find it on my website. And I shared like some of my favorite quotes and talk more about why I like this book. But just talking about it today, I think it's great for those of you who love to work with reversals, because she talks about reversals in a unique way, in an interesting way. She talks about how if you dwell too long in a particular stage, like thinking of each card as a different stage in your life maybe, if you dwell too long there, that's when it like turns back around on you and a positive starts to become a negative. So I'll just share an example with you of, what is this? The Hermit. Okay, so she says, the danger inherent in stopping at the stage of the Hermit is that of gradually losing contact with reality. And then she goes on to elaborate on that in some depth. So if you're a fan of Jung, if you're a fan of psychology, this is the tarot book for you. Although I will say Kim Huggens' book, she does have multiple books, but that book in particular already touches on that. So if you just need one book, it's got to be The Complete Guide to the Tarot Illuminati, in my opinion. And I better talk fast because I'm losing my bun here. Speaking I tried to wear Star Wars buns for you today, but my hair is very fine and blonde, so I'm not looking very Princess Leia. But like I said, I am a huge movie fan, and oh dear. My son and I went to the movies this past week, and I sometimes make vlogs on Facebook, like when I'm not really talking about anything instructional, when I just want to yip yap, I'll go on Facebook. And we had just seen The Martian, starring Matt Damon, and it's about a man called Mark Watney who gets stuck on Mars, an astronaut, and he has to learn how to survive on Mars where nothing grows while he waits like 4 years or something for NASA to send a rescue mission his way. And I won't tell you if he survives or not. You got to see the movie to see it. It is a fabulous movie and a perfect example of the hero's journey. And what I was talking about in that vlog on Facebook is how, for me, it's a movie about hope. And all throughout the movie, I just felt so much hope. And a friend of mine, Ruth Davenport, who has a channel here called Rainfire Dreaming, she left a comment that I thought tied in so perfectly with what I wanted to talk about in today's video that I actually wrote it down. And she said, while, speaking of Mark Watney's journey, the movie The Martian, she said, while it was a journey of hope, it was also a quest that had to be meaningful in and of itself. It couldn't be dependent on success or probability of outcome. It was a journey of spirit, and undertaken in that fashion, his life was worthwhile no matter how it ended. And I couldn't agree more. There's a scene in the movie toward the end where he's not sure if he's going to live, so he dictates a message to his mom and dad. He's sitting on a mountaintop, and he's dictating this message to his parents saying, you know, if I should die, I really want you to know that it wasn't in vain because I love what I do. I love my life. If I fail, if I die doing this, that's okay with me because I love it. I love my life. And this is the life that I've chosen because I love it. And I'm always talking about creating the kick-ass life of your dreams and magic. And that's a message that I really want people to understand, is that your life is going to be so much happier and so much more magical if you focus on making the journey the destination. Do not get so hung up on manifesting XYZ exactly this way. This is how it has to be. And then like suffer your way to that destination. You might never get there. Your soul might have another message for you. Or like the Wheel of Fortune card, like fate may just like throw a zinger your way that's unexpected. So make sure that the journey you're on is one that you love. Make that your destination, and your fool's journey, your soul's journey is going to be that much more magical. And at whatever destination you ultimately arrive at, you will feel satisfied because you lived a life that you love. I have a couple of awesome interviews coming up for you on this tarot theme. I'm interviewing Kellyanne Maddox of the Four Queens again. I interviewed her once for my podcast, Hippie Witch, and once here on YouTube when she was still fairly new here. She has become a breakout tarot star, so it'll be exciting to check back in with her again. And then at the end of the month, I am interviewing Audrey Allison, who happens to be my neighbor, and another popular YouTuber. She incorporates tarot into her astrological readings, so I thought that would be a really fun way to wrap things up and to show how these different systems can speak to each other and work together and take your understanding again to a whole other level. So until we meet again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Much love to you. Peace.